Okay.
Take that. But you got to get to your...
The gentleman will suspend. The question recurs upon the election of a speaker, and the tellers will please come forward and take their seats. The gentleman is recognized for his nomination.
Madam Clerk, I am honored to rise tonight to nominate my good friend, the gentleman from California, Kevin McCarthy, to serve as Speaker of this House. Madam Clerk, it's been a long week, and a lot of attention's been placed upon us here in the House. But then again, I state that to the most famous woman in Washington this week. It was a better joke as written, actually, than delivered. But I want to start by thanking the men and women who make this House run. From the janitorial staff, to the parliamentarians, to the doorkeepers, to the sergeant of arms, to the Capitol Police officers, to the men and women that make this institution run, we thank you. And at this day, and a source of charity, we'd even thank the Capitol Press Corps for sitting on floors. That, too, was actually funnier on the paper than how it delivered. I don't know why you asked me to do this, Kevin. Look, the president has called this process an embarrassment. Talking heads have labeled this chaos and a mess, and some would call it shambolic even. But it's called democracy. And this is a hallmark of a free society where every voice and every vote counts. We know it's messy. We know it's messy. But open and transparent debate is what sets us apart from authoritarian regimes. In order to outcompete our adversaries, we must adhere to the principles that make our nation, this nation, our constitutional republic, great. And that starts with a free and open exchange of ideas. And that's exactly what we've done this week. To some, it may have felt like Congress was on hold. But the alternative, a government that assembles with no input from the representatives elected by the people, is a far worse alternative. And these constitutional principles we're adhering to in this complicated process of setting up the House. Over these last few days, Kevin McCarthy has allowed this process to work among House Republicans. And he's empowered members to come together to find consensus on behalf of conservative policy and a greater involvement of all voices throughout our conference. We've all played a part. We have all played a part. Whether it's the dean or members who've just been waiting for 4 days and voting loyally. It's Kevin's leadership style, a leadership style that's been lacking in this institution for too long. It's the same style Kevin employed with each of us as we developed our policy proposal, A Commitment to America, a plan that works to secure our border and stop the flow of fentanyl into our communities, to give Chairman Comer and Chairman Jordan the tools they need to hold the Biden administration accountable for their failures, and to take China on and end the president's COVID emergency powers that have been abused far too many times. To finally reopen the People's House, empower our standing committees, and get people back to regular order here on the House floor. And countless other conservative solutions that are very powerful and good for constituents in Bakersville or Lincolnton, North Carolina. Madam Clerk, I'm one of the few members left on the Republican side who's had the pleasure of serving with Kevin for the entirety of his tenure in the House. In those years, I've worked closely with Kevin in a variety of different capacities. And, well, he's a good friend. But serving with him in these capacities has meant that I've heard every one of his stories. And the stories of Kevin O's Deli I've heard way too many times. I don't know if you've heard that he won the lottery as well. Those stories, I could recount them chapter and verse. He's a dear friend. But all of you have heard these stories too. And it's also, by my seat, able to watch him on a front row seat as he's grown as a leader. And especially this week, how he's grown as a leader. He knows more about members than they know about themselves. If your spouse is sick, he may send flowers or fruit before I did on that story. But he cares so much about members, not for politics, but because he cares about people. He's unflinchingly optimistic. The glass is always half full. That's been a hell of a trait, especially this week. He's relentless. The man does not quit. And it was Kevin that led Republicans back to the majority in this House, the only Republican institution in Washington this day. And Kevin has led us through these challenges the last few days. And Kevin is the right person to lead us over the coming 2 years. And that's why, at the direction of the Republican Conference, I advance the name of Kevin McCarthy as the next Speaker of the United States House of Representatives.